Okay, so this is the third video in our quadratic series of lessons, and this time we're looking at solving quadratic equations by factorising. So by the end of this video you will know for certain, because we've already covered it, what the root of a quadratic function is, and you'll be able to find the roots of a quadratic function by factorising, which is obviously going to be much more efficient than what we did in the previous video where you're substituting in values and trying to come up with the x-intercept. So the parabola shown here is the parabola x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, and we can see here that it's got 2 points at which it crosses the x-axis. These are the roots, and they are x equals -3 and x equals 2. Okay, it's easy, really easy to find the roots of a quadratic, because at the roots of the quadratic, y is equal to 0, because these are the x-intercepts. So remember when you were finding a y-intercept, x would be 0. So when you're finding the x-intercept, y is 0. So instead of the equation being y equals x squared plus x minus 6, it's going to be 0 equals x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, and then we can factorize. X plus 3, x minus 2 equals 0. Now, in math, there is only one possible way of multiplying to make 0. And that is one or both of your factors are 0. That means either this, or both of them together have to make 0. So by setting each bracket to 0 and solving, so x plus 3 equals 0 and x minus 2 equals 0, we can come out with these two roots, x equals -3 and x equals 2. And I'll just put that in so you're really clear about that. So this one here has a solution x equals -3, and this one has a solution x equals 2. Okay, and those, you can see them here. X is -3 for one root, and x is 2 for the other. You can see it clear as anything. And those are your two roots, and we can get them by factorising. We do not need to draw the graph. We don't even need to see the graph. We just know that the x-intercepts y is 0 and solve for 0. There's no new skill here. You know how to solve an equation, you know how to factorise. Nothing new here. Okay, so moving on. So the purpose of solving quadratic equations is to find the roots of the quadratic, i.e. the x-intercept. This is useful for sketching quadratic graphs. If you can factorise and find those roots, you can plug them in and not have to substitute in a multitude of values. So for this example here, we want to find the roots of y equals x squared plus 3x plus 2. So it's straightforward and simple how I'm going to start. I'm going to change the colour of my pen just so we know exactly what's new and what's not. X squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. If I factorise, and there was a reason why I made such a big deal about factorising when we were covering it, because it's so essential for now and for higher. So x plus 2 and x plus 1 multiplies out to give x squared plus 3x plus 2, and then I've got x plus 2 equals 0 and x plus 1 equals 0. I'm going to rub that out and write it again. Okay, so x plus 1 equals 0. So what would you add to 2 to make it 0? Well, you would add -2. What would you add to 1 to make it 0? Well, you would add -1. So the roots of this quadratic here are x equals -2 and x equals -1. And you can check it yourself. If you go into Desmos, you can shove this in to Desmos, this full function, and you'll see really clearly x equals -2 and x equals -1 as your roots. Okay, so let's just solve, right? X squared minus 5x equals 0. So these ones are already set, ready for us to go. Okay, I'm going to factorise. First factorising I should be looking for every single time is a common factor. So I've got x minus 5 equal to 0. So that means that x is 0 or x minus 5 is 0. What would you subtract 5 from to make 0? Well, you would subtract 5. So we've got the x is 0 and x is 5. For this one, two solutions here, x is 0 and x is 5. Now we've got x squared minus 16 equals 0. The second factorising that you should always check for is the difference of two squares. X minus 4, x plus 4. And that's equal to 0. So then our two solutions, x minus 4 equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, so 4 minus 4 makes 0, so x is 4. Negative 4 plus 4 makes 0, so x is negative 4. And those are your two solutions. And again, plot those on Desmos and check them, and you'll see that I have told you exactly what those roots are. And you'll see them clear as anything. Okay, so let's just go back and review. I hope now we're really clear on what the root of a quadratic function is, okay, because we've seen it now in 2 videos. But most importantly, you really need to be able to find the roots by factorising, and your factorising should be so good now. Okay, but those are the 2 things that we aimed for, and I think we've achieved them.